Hi, everybody. This is Addison Shonland. It is now February the 6th, 2024, and my guest is Andre Stein, who is the new CEO coming in at Eviation, home of the Alice. And Andre looks like he's sitting in one, but he's not really. Welcome to Eviation, Andre, and to the Seattle cluster.
Thanks for that, Addison. It's also a pleasure to talk with you. I'm starting a brand new adventure, so it is really exciting times for me.
So what is your vision for Alice and Eviation? I mean, are they the same, or do you see Eviation branching beyond Alice?
To eventually, yes, to the second question, but right now the focus, it is really laser focus on Alice itself. There is a lot to be done to deliver and certify an aircraft. And the fact that Eviation has been doing that with a very pragmatic approach, with an airplane that fits inside the existing regulatory framework, it does have a great appeal. I think it is in line with something that I do believe, which is to disrupt the aerospace segment starting at the entry level. So when you look at what Eviation is doing with Alice, it's really delivering something that's possible with current technology and yet much more sustainable, much better operational costs, and much better passenger experience as well. Particularly when you look on this segment, and it's a segment that do exist and it's very resilient today. So we look on the people deliver 9-seater aircraft, and they deliver up almost 100 every year already, as it is, right? And I'm talking about platforms that were designed in the 60s and the 80s, and now we can come with something that completely changed the game there on that segment, and rely on that idea of disruptive innovation, that you can use current technology to address a certain segment of the market that is ripe for disruption, if you might. And why I say that, because it might be some time until you see electrification going towards larger aircraft that carry 100 people or more for thousands of kilometers. But it is ripe and it's ready to deliver this shorter range commuter type of segments with a smaller aircraft.
It's interesting. I don't know if many of the viewers are aware of this, but Andre comes to Eviation starting out at Embraer and then moved to the Embraer Eve program. So you have an excellent foundation from which to speak. The thing that intrigues me, of course, is this whole 9-seater. How big is this market?
So I mentioned about the resilient market, right? The market that's already there. And we are seeing current OEMs delivering 70, 90 aircraft a year. So that's a market that do exist. And when you look at that, a lot of airlines like Cape Air, which is one of our launch customers, are flying that. And it's basically the only way to address these thinner markets, often over water or islands or some sort of geography that do not allow you to drive, or if you drive, it'll take very long. But that's considering current existing operational costs, noise levels, and so on. So when you add that to the fact that you can start flying from smaller airports closer to certain parts of the city to other airports in the other side. For example, if you fly from Lake Tahoe to Palo Alto in California, you can have a direct flight there, and the short range if you fly, and it takes you about 4 hours if you drive in a good day, right? If you want to fly some other way, you probably going to need to drive to San Francisco International Airport, catch a flight to Reno, and then drive to Lake Tahoe, and that multiplies around the globe. And why that service is not there yet? Because operational costs are too high, and that's something that made the number of cities and airports served both in US and around the globe to be reduced a lot in the last, well, since the 60s basically, actually. But if you look in the last 20 years, even more, because that unit cost kept on creeping and increasing. So we can address that, addressing the highest cost of aviation with fuel, and you can address the maintenance costs that's particular, again, compared with what exists out there, it's a low bar. And electrical motors, it's everything you can possibly want for aviation. They're simple, they're easy to maintain. So that strikes that too. And add to that a quieter aircraft that will not disturb the communities around it, and a sustainable aircraft that also will not need to deal with the discussion about if aviation is sustainable or not. Aviation needs to get more and more sustainable to reach the IATA goals of 2050 carbon neutral as a carbon neutral industry, right? So when you look on that market, a good part of it, it's just replacement in natural growth of the existing market. And that is a very resilient market that's there. And about half of it is future market. It is this new potential disruptive segments that are underserved today with existing platforms. So we combine these two, we can get a very substantial market. Actually, when you look on the total addressable market in the next 20 years or so, you're talking around 30,000 units altogether, right? But when you look on that specific segment where it would be delivering the aircraft, this 9-seater segment, that gets around 6,000 units, which is a massive quantity as well, and that you can capture quite a lot. Because you are delivering something that, again, has a very different passenger experience, which helps to beef up that market again, because passengers typically do not like to enter a smaller aircraft. They're afraid of flying. That's the reality. You and me, you like aviation, we like
Exactly.
airplanes, so different story. Your average commuter don't. So delivering that extra passenger experience is another way to create this market. And I mean, only talking about from the commuter aspect of it, right? So we are developing that side. We are developing a cargo version as well. DHL is one of our launch customers in the cargo version. And currently, there is the expectation that you're going to buy something online and receive it the next day. And that's just increasing. So more and more delivered by air becomes relevant. If before you could wait one night, a couple nights to send something by truck, now that's a very different expectation that we have overall in the market. So that's something that we can address too. There are novel models, novel business models in terms of on-demand aviation that are becoming more common. Ubers of the sky, if you might, that are becoming more and more common, that also allow us to address a market that's underserved. And with the right size aircraft, because when you're talking about on-demand, cannot be an aircraft that's too large. It needs to be the right balance between your unit costs, your seat costs, and the total cost of operation.
So it's interesting. When Roy Genzarski was running Magnix, he explained the same kind of thinking to me about, he said to me, you come at the industry from traditional thinking. He said electrical motors change everything at this small end. And he was talking about, for example, flying across LA. Let's say Ontario Airport to LAX for a taxi service. What do you estimate the cost savings would be for an operator? Obviously, pilot costs or whatever they are. But if you take out fuel and you take out the huge amount of maintenance, for example, on a turboprop or even on a piston compared to an electric motor, what do you think that the savings would be on an operational basis?
So just to get to your point about LA has around 18 different airfields around the city and over 100 kilometers from north to south, right? So it's actually, there is even a case for urban air mobility with fixed wing aircraft in LA.
Right.
And there was a company doing that some years ago. In terms of cost savings, depends on what you compare with. And the right thing to compare with would be like at least a twin motor aircraft, twin turbine, because that's what you have here in terms of redundancy, even more when you think about electrical motors being the series of stacked motors. So each one of our motors actually have 4 motors in series, and that increases the redundancy. And when compared to that, we can reduce the main cost to less than half when you're looking fuel and maintenance, right? Pilots, it's one of the reasons, by the way, that the 9-seater becomes quite attractive. There is a big pilot shortage in the market. We all know that, right? When it comes to regional aviation. And the fact that you can fly single pilot with 9 seats And I'm not talking about anything new in terms of regulatory framework. It's
Sure.
what is there today allows you to fly with a copilot sometimes and to add hours to it and really create a pipeline where you can move that pilots to the other seat, to the first officer seat, or even to a bigger airline to fly as well. So it's, we do address somehow the pilot aspect too.
Andre, when you look, you talk about the addressable market, and those are big numbers that you talked about. How would you break that addressable market down in percentages, say, between a regional operator, an air taxi, and maybe even private, and maybe freight? You know, if you were to put buckets around those big numbers, how would you distribute that available market?
So we got the biggest market that we see. It's really the commuter market. So that gets the lion's share of it. And then you have the private, and
like
the private,
Cape Air, right?
exactly, case like
Right.
Cape Air. But then the mix of private aviation and commuter aviation, it is getting blurred because
Right.
this new on demand. So that's actually the biggest chunk, probably this passenger application, as a mix of both what is understandable today as private aviation and commuter aviation. And then cargo, it is a smaller market, but as I said, it's a growing market as well. And when you add the two things, that minimize your risk in a way, because you have these different business models going around, and you have the different geographies as well. It's not a North American market; it's a pretty global market, which is reflected on our order book. You have today over 600 orders. That's about $5 billion in backlog that are quite spread between Asia, Europe, US, and different business model as well, with cargo and passenger airplanes there. And that reality, it's related to the fact that today, and I was talking about, okay, electrification cannot fly hundreds and hundreds of kilometers yet, or miles for my American friends. But it is, when look on the overall market, more than half of all segments flowing worldwide are less than 500 nautical miles. 29% are less than 250 nautical miles. And that's a big number. That's where I'm confident about this sizable market that we are talking about, that can be addressable with either by just replacing, as I said, new markets, or even right-sizing a lot of the current operations, increasing the catchment area of a lot of airlines as well, because now you can have this 250 nautical miles away passenger for your main hub or your main airport, live in a smaller community that's not large enough for a 50-seater or 80-seater, but it's large enough for a 9-seater, and
Right.
you really increase your catchment area.
It's interesting you said that, you know, you mentioned the fact that it's a global thing, but for example, North America, certainly the US, is still 70+% of the world's regional airline market. And we've lost in the US over 320 communities have lost air service. And
Perfect.
for people like you with the Alice, and of course, even your former colleagues over at Heart, are all looking at the same thing. You've got this Embraer alumni across this industry in the electric space, which is fascinating to me. But that clearly has got to be the sweet spot for people like running the Alice, right? That if you were able to serve these smaller markets that don't warrant a CRJ 900 or an E175, and regional jets at 50-seater are gone because the economics are upside down. But you've got an airplane here that allows a single-seater, and you could probably run it like every 30 minutes, you know, serving a hub. So you get around the network speed problem and the network feed problem. That's an interesting way.
Nothing to add to what you said. I completely agree.
Okay,
So,
you see, you taught me well. Okay, so the next thing to talk about here, I guess, is technology. Batteries are a problem. another thing that I spoke with Roy Ganzarski when we were talking, it was when Harbour Air in Vancouver put the electric motor on the I'm having a moment here, on the de Havilland. And I mean, that airplane, the DH2, started off with a radial, then went to a turboprop. Now it has an electric, the Beaver. So now it's on its third generation of engine, and that airplane is still going. So it just goes to show you, if you build something that's compelling, it really is timeless. And he was telling me that was the interesting thing there, of course, is that as you fly, generally the fuel tanks get lighter, but with an electric motor, your power, your weight stays the same. You're not losing weight as you fly. So clearly, battery technology has a huge impact on the evolution of the Alice and anybody else in the segment. What can you tell us about this, the evolution of solid state batteries, for example, and how that's going to play a role?
It definitely will. So the way we're looking at it, it's a very different story when you design an aircraft that's battery native, if you might, right? You design around the fact that you're carrying probably more weight of batteries than payload. So there is something to be said about retrofit, and I'm a firm believer in retrofit as a bridge towards that, towards the electrical aviation. But when you design to comply to be electric from day one, we allow for that. And one of the things we have been doing is to try to future-proof as much as we can the battery compartment, in the sense that different shapes and size of batteries could fit on it, optimizing to a point, so it's not any type of battery, right? There is always a limit to it, but we are designing in a way that you can embrace future technologies. We don't need them to start in the market. We don't need them to really address the vast majority of the market we are trying to address. But unlike fuel aircraft, and that's the first in the aerospace industry, as far as I'm aware, range will evolve with time, because the battery is something that's replaceable. It's not something that will last as long as the aircraft. And every time you replace the battery, you have opportunity for a newer technology, including solid state. I do think solid state, it's developing reasonably fast. And one of the big difference we have now than just a few years ago was that there was a big hype about batteries, and batteries doubling capacity every year. And suddenly you can design for a future magic battery, and you don't need to worry about weight and battery, because the battery will be there. If today you don't have that view that the batteries will evolve that fast, the bright side of it, the silver lining, is that you have a much more clear roadmap. So we can understand how much batteries are expected to evolve, even without any disruption, or even without solid state batteries. Even the current lithium ion batteries, they still have a roadmap, and that roadmap is much more clear now. So we can plan for that. And if something comes and disrupt it, even better. If solid state comes and really revolutionize batteries and increase lifespan and of the battery and the energy density, that's great. We can upgrade the aircraft without really recertifying a completely new aircraft. You can do that through STCs that are reasonably simple.
Andre, it sounds really fascinating, and certainly wish you the best of good luck at your new role, and look forward to seeing you as soon as possible at an air show or somewhere else sooner.
It's a very small world to live in, and luckily for us that love aviation, people move around, so I'm sure we're gonna meet in an air show or somewhere else. Adson, always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.